Okay, so there is another way of combining two functions to form its composition. And this is what we call composite function. The composition of two functions, f and g, is defined as follows. We have f, small circle g, then x. We read this small circle as a circle. So we read this notation as f circle g of x. Okay? F circle g of x equals to f of g of x. Okay? So that is how we denote composite function. Okay? Paano ba nagkakameron ng composite function? Um, if we have here y is related to u, or y is a function of u, and then another function u is related to x. So dito nagkakameron ng function if we want to have relationship between y and x. So ibig sabihin, y is related to u. So this is y, this is u, and u is related to x. So nagkakameron ng composite function kapag kinuha natin yung relationship between y and x. So ito yon. So para ma-establish yung relationship, all we have to do is to substitute the value of u to this function. So from here, we're going to replace u by g of x. So that will become y equals f of g of x. So doon nagmula yung f of g of x. Okay? So parang ganito, if we have y equals, let's say, u. Okay? U squared. And then u is equals to x plus 1. So para makapag-form tayo ng functions between functions of y in terms of x, so x plus 1 will be substituted here. So we have y equals u is x plus 1, so that will be x plus 1 squared. So this is now your f of g of x. Okay, so that is what we call composite function. And when it comes to the domain of this composite function, it is just the set of all x in the domain of g such that g of x is in the domain of f. Medyo confusing on how we're going to get the domain of this composite function. But when I give you example, there are steps to be followed for us to determine the domain of this composite function. So I'm just going to explain all of this by giving example in finding the domain of this composite function. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. So here is my first example in finding the composite function of two or more functions and the resulting the domain of the resulting function. Okay, so this is forming a composite function and its equivalent domain. So if we have here a function f of x equals 1 over x minus 1, and we have another function g of x equals 2 over x, find a f circle g of x and b g circle f of x and its domain. So answer muna natin yung letter A. Okay? Kunin natin yung kanyang composite function. Okay, letter A. F circle g of x can be written as f of g of x. Okay? So first is i-plug in muna natin si g of x. G of x is 2 over x. So f of 2 over x. And then we're going to substitute 2 over x to x on our f of x function. Okay? So 2 of x, we're going to replace x by 2 over x. So we have 1, diretso na. Ito isang buo. So we have 1 over 2 over x minus 1. Okay? So I replace x of f of x by 2 over x. Okay? So we have 1 over LCD as x, so 2 minus x over x. Okay? Getting the reciprocal of the denominator, x will be on top, 2 minus x will be on the denominator, So this will be equal to 1 over 2 minus x times x over 1. Okay, so our answer is x over 2 minus x. So nag-shortcut na ako doon. So dapat alam nyo na yon, ano? Dahil naituro na yon sa junior high. Okay? So that is our answer for letter A. So the next is for the domain of this resulting function or domain of this composite function. So we have steps to be followed. Number 1, in finding for the domain of this, okay, composite function, exclude x, okay? Exclude x. Pagkuha ito ng domain, ha? Exclude x. That is not in the domain of G. Okay. So, ano ba ang hindi natin pwedeng isama sa domain of G? Ibig sabihin, yung wala sa domain ni G function, ay hindi natin isasama sa domain of this composite function. Ang domain ng ating G is all reals except x equals 0. So, ibig sabihin, x equals 0 is not included also in the domain of this composite function. Not included in to. Not included in f circle G of x. Kasi wala siya sa domain of G function. Okay? Now, next step is exclude value of x. Exclude value of x for which G of x is not in the domain of f. Ibig sabihin, hindi daw natin isasama yung value of x na kung saan si G of x ay wala sa domain ni function f. Ano daw? Ibig sabihin lang po nun, ano ba yung restriction ni f of x? Ang restriction ay x should not be equal to 1 because if that happens, the denominator will become 0. So yung wala sa domain ni f, si 1. Okay? Wala sa domain ni f o function f, si 1. Okay? So therefore, kailangan daw exclude din natin yung g of x when x equals 1. Okay? We should exclude the value of x, g of x equals 1. Kasi si 1 is not included in the domain of f. So therefore, we're going to solve for the value of g of x or x when g of x equals 1. And that will be excluded also in the domain of the composite function. So we have g of x is equal to 1. I-exclude natin yung value ni x when g of x equals 1. Kasi si 1 ay hindi kasama sa domain ni f. Okay? G of x is 2 over x. So we solve for x when g of x equals 1. Therefore, x equals 2. So, yan ang ating hindi isasama sa domain of the composite function. Una, exclude si x na hindi kasama sa domain ni G. Ikalawa, hindi rin isasama sa domain ng ating composite function yung g of x na kung saan hindi kasama sa domain ni f of x. So that is g of x equals 1 because that is the restriction value of x of f of x. Okay? So the resulting value is x equals 2. So therefore, the domain of this composite function x over 2 minus x is all reals. So domain of f circle G is what? x such that x is an element of real numbers except this one, x not equal to 0 and x not equal to 2. Okay, so that is our answer. So, paano natin yon ilalagay in interval notation? Sa interval notation, lagay natin para maintindihan. So, hindi pwedeng 0. Hindi pwede ring 2. Okay? So, simula dito, pwede. Yan. Ito pwede rin dito. Pero hindi kasama 0, 2. At saka simula dito hanggang doon. Okay? So, union of these three set of numbers. Una, negative infinity, 0. Hindi kasama yung 0. And then, what else? Union to 0 to 2. Union to 2, positive infinity. So, this is the equivalent interval notation of the domain of the composite function. Okay? So, that is the solution to letter A. So we have for letter B, we have G circle f of x. So it can be written as G f of x. G of f of x. Okay? So first is we plug in f of x. So f of x is 1 over x minus 1. So we have G 1 over x minus 1. And then, to solve for the composite function, we're just going to replace x of g of x by 1 over x minus 1. So we have 2 over 1 over x minus 1. So I just replace x of g of x by 1 over x minus 1. Then if you get the reciprocal of this, the result is 2 times x minus 1 over 1. So therefore, the composite function is 2 quantity x minus 1. So that is our answer for letter B. The next is to determine the composite function. For the composite function, we have, babaliktarin natin. We follow the same steps na ginawa natin sa letter A, but this time, we're going to exclude x that is not in the domain of f. Okay? Yan, tatanggal natin to. Exclude that is not in the domain of f. Okay? Okay. So again, exclude natin yung x that is not in the domain of f. Kanina, exclude natin that is not in the domain of g. Kasi f circle g of x. For g circle f of x, exclude natin yung wala sa domain ni f. Okay? Ano yung wala sa domain ni f? X equals 1. So, exclude natin yan doon sa ating x equals 1. Itong exclude natin doon sa ating domain of the composite function. Okay? Kasi wala siya sa domain ni f. For number 2 step natin, exclude value of x for which f of x, okay? For which f of x is not in the domain of g. Okay? Okay, alin pa yung exclude natin? Yung value of x na kung saan si f of x ay wala sa domain ni g. Ano ba yung hindi kasama sa domain of g? X equals 0. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, we're going to determine value of x for f of x equals 0. Okay? So, f of x equals 0. Yan ang i-determine natin. And f of x is 1 over x minus 1. So, 1 over x minus 1 equals 0. But if we're going to solve for the value of x by multiplying both sides by x minus 1, we're going to have an equation of y equals 0. So, therefore, anong ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin nun, f of x cannot be 0. Okay? F of x cannot be 0. Okay? Therefore, the domain of G circle f of x, okay? The domain of this composite function the domain will be G circle F is all reals except 1. Itong exclude natin. Di ba? Dito wala na tayong exclude kasi f of x cannot be 0. Therefore, x such that x is an element of real numbers except 1. Or, pwede nating sabihin from negative infinity to 1, union to 1 to positive infinity in interval notation. So that is how to form or to determine the composite function and its equivalent domain. Okay? And as you can see, F circle G is not equal to G circle F. Okay? So that will be my example in composite function. Thank you.